You just got your tax refund. $3,000 hits your account, and for exactly 48 hours, you feel rich. Then, the car needs new brakes, the water heater dies, your kid needs a root canal. Within a week, that money's gone, and you're back to checking your balance before buying groceries. You're not irresponsible. You didn't blow it on a vacation. Life just costs money. Welcome to being normal in America, where average means constantly broke, where middle class is a myth we tell ourselves while transferring money between credit cards to avoid overdraft fees. Today, we're doing the math everyone avoids. We're calculating what it actually costs to live a basic American life in 2026. Not luxurious, not even comfortable, just normal. And you're going to see why it doesn't add up. Hey, I'm Jack, and on this channel we talk about personal finance and why the system feels rigged, because honestly, it kinda is. If you're tired of working hard and still being broke, smash that like button and subscribe, because we're about to break down the numbers they don't want you to see. Here's what we're covering today: the real cost of average American expenses, how even six-figure earners are struggling, and what you can actually do about it without winning the lottery. Let's start with income, because everyone loves talking about how much the average American makes. Median household income right now sits around $80,000 a year. 80 grand sounds decent, right? That's supposed to be middle class. That's the dream. Except nobody tells you what happens to that money the second you earn it. Federal taxes take their cut, state taxes grab some, Social Security and Medicare take 7.65%. You're supposed to save for retirement, so another 5% goes to your 401k. After taxes and minimal retirement contributions, that $80,000 becomes about $62,000 take home. That's roughly $5,200 a month to live on. Now, let's watch it disappear. Housing is supposed to be 30% of your gross income according to every financial advisor ever. On 80 grand, that's $2,000 a month. Good luck finding that in most American cities. The average rent for a two-bedroom apartment in America is now over $1,800. In cities like Austin, Miami, or Seattle, you're looking at $2,500 minimum for something that isn't falling apart. Let's say you're lucky and found a place for exactly $2,000. Congratulations, you have $3,200 left for literally everything else. Now comes transportation, because America loves cars. Average car payment right now is $738 a month. Insurance runs another $180. Gas, depending on your commute, is easily $200 a month. Maintenance and repairs budget at least $100. That's $1,218 a month just to own a vehicle. You're down to $1,982, and we haven't fed you yet. Food for one person on a moderate budget runs about $400 monthly. A family of four needs at least $900. Let's split it and say $650 for a couple. Now you've got $1,332 remaining. Time for utilities, which everyone forgets about until the bills arrive. Electricity, water, and trash run about $150. Internet, because you literally cannot function without it, is $80. Cell phone plan, another $70. That's $300 gone, leaving you with $1,032. Health insurance time. Even with an employer plan, you're paying premiums. Average individual premium is $200 out of pocket. Families can pay $500 or more, even with company coverage. We'll say $250 for a couple. You're at $782 now. Student loans hit next because 45 million Americans have them, and the average payment is $350 monthly. You're down to $432 for the entire month, for everything we haven't mentioned yet: clothes, haircuts, prescriptions, car registration, or literally anything unexpected. You haven't saved for emergencies, you haven't contributed extra to retirement, you definitely haven't had any fun or done anything that makes life worth living. This is the math of average. Here's the part that makes me crazy. This calculation assumes everything goes perfectly. No medical emergencies, no car accidents, no job loss, no surprise expenses whatsoever. One bad month and you're going into debt. One unexpected bill and you're choosing between the electric company and the credit card minimum payment. This isn't living, it's surviving. The Federal Reserve says 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. Now you see why. The math makes it impossible. Housing costs have increased 320% since 1990. Wages have gone up maybe 170% in that same time. College tuition up 750%. Healthcare costs tripled. Everything got more expensive except your paycheck. And somehow we're supposed to believe this is normal, that struggling on $80,000 a year means you're bad with money. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Being average costs more than average people can afford. The baseline existence that society calls normal is mathematically unattainable for most Americans. You might be thinking, okay, fine, but what if I just make more money? What if I get that promotion or switch jobs and earn six figures? Problem solved, right? Wrong. Making more money doesn't fix this. It just unlocks a more expensive version of the same trap. You go from struggling at $50K to struggling at $100K to struggling at $150K. Let me show you exactly how this works. Meet Sarah and Mike. Combined household income, $140,000 a year. They're crushing it by most standards, top 20% of earners in America. Monthly gross income is $11,667. Sounds amazing until taxes show up. Federal income tax at their bracket takes about $2,100, state tax another $650, FICA grabs $892. They contribute 8% to their 401ks to get the employer match because that's what responsible people do. That's $933 a month. Take-home pay after taxes and retirement is $7,092. They bought a 3-bedroom house in a good school district for their 2 kids. Nothing fancy, just decent schools and safe streets. Mortgage payment on their $450,000 loan at 7% is $2,995. Property taxes are $550 monthly. Home insurance that keeps increasing is $280. They're in an HOA because everything is now, so add another $150. Total housing cost is $3,975, leaving $3,117. 2 car payments because they both commute in different directions. Nothing luxury, just reliable Toyotas. That's $850 total. Car insurance for 2 vehicles with good coverage is $350 monthly. Gas, because suburban sprawl means driving everywhere, is $320. We're at $1,597 remaining. Groceries for a family of 4 trying to avoid feeding kids pure garbage costs $1,100 if they're careful. Health insurance premiums after employer contribution are $450. They're still paying off their deductible from when their daughter broke her wrist last year, another $200 monthly toward that. Childcare and after-school programs because both parents work full-time runs $1,200. Student loans from the degrees they needed for these jobs are $700 combined. They're now negative $1,053. And we haven't touched utilities, internet, phones, clothing, school supplies, birthday gifts, car maintenance, dental work, or the fact that life occasionally requires a haircut. They make $140,000 a year. Sarah and Mike should be comfortable. Instead, they're living paycheck to paycheck, putting unexpected expenses on credit cards and wondering why success feels like failure. This is above average in 2026. The problem isn't income, it's that every income level comes with societal expectations that cost exactly as much as you make. Society assigns a price tag to your bracket. Make $40K, you're expected to rent cheap and drive a beater. Make $80K, you should own a starter home. Make $140K, you need the good school district, the reliable cars, the family vacations. These aren't suggestions, they're requirements. Your kids' friends all have iPads and birthday parties at trampoline parks. Your coworkers drive new cars. Your neighbors renovate constantly. The pressure to keep up isn't from corporations, it's from everyone around you performing the same expensive theater. And the people selling this lifestyle, banks, realtors, car dealers, they know you can't afford it. The mortgage broker who approved Sarah and Mike for that $450,000 house ran the numbers. 43% debt-to-income ratio, technically within guidelines, but one job loss destroys them. Does the broker care? No, because that loan gets sold to an investor within days. The car salesman who stretched their payments to 84 months isn't worried about them still paying when repairs hit. Everyone in the transaction optimizes for the sale, not your survival. And once you're locked in, once you've signed everything and enrolled the kids, you're trapped completely. You can't downsize without uprooting your life. Can't take a pay cut to try something meaningful. Definitely can't quit because the payments never stop. You built a prison that demands constant feeding. This is the real cost of average, not just money, but complete loss of freedom. You work to pay for a life you barely live because you're always working to pay for it. The system isn't broken. This is exactly how it's designed. Keep people earning enough to stay hopeful, but never enough to get ahead. Keep them borrowing to maintain appearances. Keep them too exhausted and financially fragile to take risks or demand better. And convince them this is normal, that everyone struggles like this, that stress is just part of adulting. So you don't question it. You just keep grinding, keep spending, keep hoping next year will be different. But next year never comes because the math doesn't allow it to exist. Real talk, what do you actually do with this information? Understanding you're trapped is useless without an exit strategy. So here's what actually works, if you're brave enough. First, accept that average is a product being sold to you, not a life goal. The average American lifestyle is marketing. The advertised version and reality are completely different experiences. Your parents said, get a good job, buy a house, have kids, it'll work out. Great advice in 1985 when houses cost twice your salary. Terrible advice now when houses cost 8 times your salary. Following their roadmap for a country that doesn't exist anymore drives you straight off a cliff. You need to run your own numbers, not the bank's version of what you can afford. Sit down this weekend with your actual take-home pay after taxes. Write down every fixed expense: mortgage or rent, car payments, insurance, loans, utilities, phone, internet, childcare, everything. Add it up. What's left is your actual life. That's the money for food, gas, clothes, entertainment, emergencies, and savings. If that number is under 30% of take-home, you're drowning. You just haven't admitted it because everyone around you is also drowning and calling it normal. Here's what math actually requires. Fixed expenses should be under 50% of take-home. That leaves room for shocks. Car breaks down, kid needs braces, unexpected medical bills. Life doesn't ask permission to be expensive, but most people spend 70 to 80% on fixed costs before buying groceries. They're one bad month from disaster constantly, doing it because society said this is success. Second step, identify your biggest financial vampire. For most people, it's housing or cars. You're spending 40% of income on a house that's supposedly an investment, except you can't access equity without selling and moving somewhere cheaper, which defeats the point completely. Or spending $700 monthly on car payments for vehicles losing value daily. You're paying interest to own depreciating assets. That's not wealth building, that's financial self-harm with nice packaging. Calculate what happens if you make one massive change. Move somewhere cheaper. Cut housing by $600 monthly. That's $7,200 yearly. Over 10 years, invested at 7%, that's $103,000. You're not just saving money, you're buying freedom. What if you sold one car and shared? Kept your current car 10 years instead of upgrading every 4? Average car payment is $738. Eliminate that for 5 years while driving paid off, and you create $44,000 of wealth just by not upgrading. This is where excuses start. But I need reliable transportation for work. But we need space. But my kids deserve good schools. Maybe true, but weigh them against the cost of financial imprisonment forever. Your kids don't need the 4-bedroom house in expensive suburbs. They need parents who aren't constantly stressed about money. They need to see financial stability modeled properly. The painful reality is opting out of average means looking less successful than peers, driving the older car, living in smaller spaces, skipping vacations everyone posts on Instagram. But they're not posting the credit card debt funding that vacation, the sleepless nights, the fights about spending, the constant anxiety that one expense breaks them completely. You choose your hard. Hard to drive a beater while coworkers drive new trucks. Also hard being 60 with no retirement because you maintained appearances for 40 years. Hard to rent while friends buy houses. Also hard losing your house to foreclosure because you stretched too far. Hard telling kids no, also hard watching them repeat your financial dysfunction. The version of hard you choose determines whether you build wealth or service debt. Most people choose socially acceptable hard, then wonder why they're always broke forever. Third step, build your gap. This is space between earning and spending. Most people have no gap. They make 75K and spend 75K, or worse, make 75K and spend 85K on credit. Your only path to wealth is creating and protecting a gap. Start with 10%. If you can't save 10% of income, you're living beyond your means, period. Math doesn't care about reasons. That gap is your weapon against the system. How you stop paying poverty premiums. How you buy quality once instead of replacing cheap stuff forever. Every dollar in that gap is proof you're opting out, that you refuse to play a rigged game. Most people won't do this. They'll nod along, feel anxious, then finance their lifestyle anyway. Because changing requires admitting the past 10 years were mistakes, requires disappointing people, requires being different. But people who actually change, who run real numbers and make hard choices, build wealth. Not because they earned more, though that helps, because they refused to play a rigged game, stopped confusing spending with success, chose freedom over appearance every single time. The average American is broke because average lifestyle costs more than average income. Math is simple. Solution is hard, but it's the only solution that works in reality. Look, nobody's coming to save you. Not your employer, not the government, definitely not financial services profiting from your confusion. System works exactly as intended, just not for you. You have two options. Keep pretending working harder, earning more will crack the code, that next year you'll get ahead by staying on the hamster wheel. Millions choose this and retire broke. Or look at actual numbers, accept that average is unaffordable, and build life based on math, not marketing. Drive paid-off cars, live in smaller places, disappoint relatives at Thanksgiving. The freedom to quit jobs you hate, handle emergencies without panic, sleep without checking balances doesn't come from earning six figures. It comes from spending 4 while earning 6. The gap is everything. Choice isn't between rich or poor, it's between looking successful and actually being stable. Most sacrifice stability for appearance and call it adulting. Drop a comment and tell me what part of this hit different. Are you stuck in the average trap, or did you already opt out? I want to hear your story. If this opened your eyes, check out my video on how to actually build wealth on an average income. It's the practical playbook for escaping this mess we just talked about. Thanks for watching, and remember, looking rich and being rich are two completely different games. Play the one that actually wins. I'll see you in the next one.